All right, thank you, everybody. My name is Doug Royer. I'm a solutions architect for ThousandEyes, and I'm going to walk through two quick examples today of different scenarios that we've seen. The first wasn't something that we really intended the product to be used for. It's financial services or financial companies have started using us for monitoring their DDoS mitigation solutions. And so we have an example of Bank of America under a DDoS attack. And then second, I've got a proxy for one of our SaaS application providers. Again, I'm sure you understand that a lot of our customers are pretty sensitive about their data. So these are examples that we can show, feel good about the results, but not also violate any of the confidence that we have with these companies. So with that, we'll start out with Bank of America in the application view. And as you can see on the screen, we have all sorts of red. So a little bit scary in terms of the setup. Probes from around the world are showing problems. Within the availability view here, or the application view, we have a dip in availability, but we don't know really what's going on. As we proceed to the right, there's a period of calm, and then there's another dip in availability. So 24 hours, a lot of the network engineers are probably up pretty late. They might have slept a little bit in the middle, but don't quite know what's going on. In terms of the path visualization that Ricardo and Mo have talked about here, it looks pretty bad. So on the left-hand side are the agent locations. Bank of America, in this case, is serving up bankofamerica.com from 3 web servers, so we got those destinations on the right-hand side. And the interesting thing down here is the bottom. We have, can't quite see the RDNS entry, but this is inside of the Bank of America network. And so the top 2 locations have actually moved to Prolexic. The bottom web server has not. And so we're seeing significant loss inside of those locations. And we have examples of that here, here, and here. So as we move forward within the attack, things look a little bit better. More green on the screen. It's a little bit calmer. And as we pull the connectivity out further and further, looks pretty typical of a network that Ricardo showed. If we were to expand it all the way, you'd see a lot more complex scenario. But as we move out to the 6th hop, we actually see an interesting pattern that's not too typical of a lot of companies. We actually have these conversion points here, 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 and as I scroll down here. And those are actually the Prolexic scrubbing centers that are doing the work for Bank of America after they've made their shift.
Just a quick question. How many guys are familiar with cloud-based DDoS mitigation solutions? So we're all right, okay.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of that setup, if we now shift back to the application view, again, things look pretty calm. We're doing well. Availability is at 100%. But if we jump back into that path visualization view and expand that slider back out, there is a tell of a problem that's coming. And so we have this scrubbing center here, and we have some high link latencies, 153 milliseconds down below, 200, 153, 220, and 220. So again, this is indicating stress within the network, and as we move forward within the attack, we'll actually show that some of these same exact locations are actually failing when it came to the rest of the attack. And so we'll jump forward a few hours, and within that now, for example, Singapore is experiencing 44% loss and 28% off of Hong Kong. If we take this back even further and just simplify the graphic, it becomes a lot more obvious as far as what's happening. So again, it wasn't something that we typically saw or intended to build a product around. We're not a security solution, but we are providing value in terms of giving you additional insight. As you push your edge out to these DDoS mitigation providers, you're actually able to get a little bit of insight, a little bit more control back. And it really clicked for us one day about 9 months ago. It was one of my first days, and we got a PO on the line that actually said DDoS monitoring was the line item rather than anything related to ThousandEyes. So that was kind of an aha moment, and we've got a lot of financial institutions that are using us in this use case.
So this is monitoring during attack?
During the attack.
What's the impact to service during an attack?
Great question.
Sorry, just to add one quick thing. There's a couple things, because when you're under attack, you actually make the BGP switch or the DNS switch to turn on the mitigation, right?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
we track and make sure that switch has worked okay.
Yep.
And then you monitor the period of the mitigation, whether it's actually working as per expectation.
So my immediate response is to look at that and go, my DDoS provider's not cutting it.
Yeah.
Right? They're not actually don't have enough bandwidth, even after filtering, to cope with my load.
Right, and it depends, right, because they have multiple scrubbing zones. One may be doing well, one may not be. It's just that sort of visibility, which you need as you push your edge out, like Doug said.
Because I'd take that data and give whoever the DDoS provider is a very bad
Not going to like us very much, but...
The other thing that we've seen is there might be a center in Europe that's handling traffic in a specific way, whereas the North American one is handling things a little bit better.
We actually had another attack that we saw on a large financial, which was using two upstreams, right? Both major tier 1 upstreams. And everything coming through one of them was okay. Everything coming on through the other one was completely bad, red. Yeah. And they had this suspicion that one of them was not doing well, but it was more on instinct, and we could actually show them real data, which was really cool.
Are you guys interested at all, like, on deflecting any of the DDoS, like a flow spec or anything like that?
We're not really into the DDoS deflection or security solutions as much. We're treating us as more visibility, and in many ways, this to me is like using a cloud provider, right? You're using a DDoS mitigation service. It's similar to an enterprise using Salesforce. This is a bank using a cloud provider like Prolexic to mitigate the attack. It's just more visibility at this stage.
So the second example that I'll walk through real quick, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague Chris, is an example of a website that if you've got a television you've seen before, Ancestry.com. We're using them as a SaaS application. Again, it's not an enterprise SaaS application, but it does actually provide you a good visualization of how an application issue can actually be based on a BGP issue. So again, we start out here, we have a dip in availability. We're down to 64% right across the map. So at that point, ThousandEyes is issuing some alerts, and we started looking at beyond just where this is occurring, jump into the path visualization and start to see some interesting data. So we have routes terminating inside of XO. So we have the RDNS entry for XO communications. I can actually select those and give you a little bit bigger picture, but inside of XO communications, the routes are terminating. So as we jump back in time, actually, we can see that these were valid paths. You can always move forward and backwards as you've selected those and see that those two locations were in path previously. And as we initially couldn't quite figure out what was going on here, but as we moved to the BGP route visualization, it was a little bit more clear. Show an example of, since this is the first time we brought the screen up, what's going on. So the blue is the myfamily.com or the ancestry.com AS.
Doug, can I just ask you to zoom in one level, just
so
it's there? Command plus. Yeah,
shortcut. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have routers that are forwarding to the data sets that we're leveraging, and those are the country label locations or city label locations, so Sydney, for example. And then we have the transit providers in gray. So the XO Communications 2828, myfamily.com 36175, and American Fiber Systems is 31993. And as we move forward in one set of data, we can actually see that there was a change made, and the dotted line indicates the old path, so away from XO, and we're now with American Fiber Systems. So that's for that specific period. At the end of it, there was no longer a best route into XO, and as a result, packets were still getting forwarded there, getting dropped, and our agents picked that up in terms of 100% packet loss there. Interesting thing, moving forward a little bit in time, BGP route reconverged, and we have a healthy path once again. But it was, a very challenging problem to initially solve without this view, because you'd be still sitting there looking at a trace route, trying to identify the packet loss, and it wouldn't be attributed. So having an availability across, 30, 50 locations and being able to see that pattern really solved it well for us.
So in this case, you were actually looking out from Ancestry.com, right? So you were determining that XO didn't have a route into, or well, really, I guess opposite, right? That from Ancestry.com, you didn't have a good route into XO, which would suggest that customers solely attached to XO then would be the ones unable
this
to
is
reach
all
it?
still outside in view.
Yeah.
Even the BGP
Okay.
view right now is outside in. So we're collecting routing feeds from RIPE and route view and so on. So it gives the outside view. But we saw that the forwarding paths, all the routes were being dropped at XO, all the packets. But it's a bit bizarre because you see like 10 different routers dropping packets and it just doesn't make sense until you actually look at the BGP view and it shows you that there is no BGP path via XO anymore.
Right.
And that kind of explains the whole forwarding path behavior, which there's just the convergence inconsistency where routes are not converged, but packets are still being forwarded to XO, which does not have a physical route. And so that's the idea.
But so from the standpoint of your use case here, your customer was Ancestry.com in this
Our
case,
customer
or-
would be, it could be Ancestry.com as well, but we didn't need any implementation on Ancestry side. So we don't have any agent, any implementation, no BGP feed, nothing. It's just outside in.
And Chris will actually cover the enterprise use case where you're consuming a lot of SaaS applications and show you some examples of that. So.
Do you consider leveraging a partnership with someone like Exa BGP or BGPmon where you can actually use this information in conjunction with them seeing the routes being pulled? Because you might see it, they'll see it from actually a router perspective, maybe from a looking glass or something like that.
No, but they have this information, they have the RIPE feed,
Hmm.
which is the same thing that BGPmon is
The
using.
raw data
Okay.
is the same.
They use the
That's
same feeds.
All right,
Data
sorry,
that Cyclops
that's my
uses as well.
misunderstanding. That's right. Thank you.